with a thing called tuna sashimi. 3, 2, 1.
Hello guys, Tuna back again. Well, this week we're going to have a look at the Taito Type X arcade board. I've been doing a lot of streaming on this lately and streaming through a lot of the games. This does have a hacked BIOS and it does have a multi hard disk in it. So basically underneath here is a SSD hard disk and it's a 1 terabyte multi build. It's got a lot of games on here. Got a lot of the Taito Type X games. It's got a lot of the Naomi games and Taito Type the F3 games. It's got various stuff on here. It's got some Maiden games on here, and it's got a bit of everything on here, to be honest. I say this is the version 3 Taito Type X board, and if I can lift this up, I don't know whether you can see on the sticker, but you probably can't. I say this is the 405 model. According to this, it comes with 2 gig of RAM. It's an i3 processor. It's clocked at 3.3 gigahertz, and it comes with a VGA card. This one has got a completely different VGA card in here. It's got an MSI card in here, so the graphics card has been updated. As far as I'm aware, to do that, you've got to hack the BIOS on them, and then you can upgrade the hack the BIOS. You probably just got to flash another BIOS on them, and then you can upgrade the graphics card in them. I say these are meant to go in an arcade cab, preferably like a Vulix cab by Taito, which is what I've been using it. They run off fast IO and they run off JVS standards. If I lift this up, yeah, they say there's your USB type JVS connector, and there's your fast IO connector, and there's a second sub fast IO connector. I don't know what that one's for. It looks pretty much like a network cable. I'm using the fast IO on this board. It does have a couple of dip switches as well for the fast IO, which I'm not messing around with. There may be ways of configuring some of the software on you. I think if you turn that one on, it goes into the BIOS, and then you can have a play around with things in there. As you can see, it's basically got your standard PC IO. So you've got your SPDIF connector, you got a serial connector, USBs. It's got the internal graphics card, which may be why it says VGA. It uses the internal, and then you got your power, you got your audio connectors, and then you've got the replacement graphics card, which is an MSI. I'm not sure what model it is. I would have to open this up to have a look at it, but it does have a security void sticker on here for the person who made it. So it's not my board, so I'm not going to open it up. But I say this has DVI, VGA and HDMI. I've been using the HDMI straight into the monitor and the cab, and it works fine. So you could use this on a standard telly, essentially. You can plug in an Xbox controller with this. Some of the racing games and stuff are all set up to use an Xbox controller. You can put a mouse in here as well, and a keyboard. They all work as well. The mouse works on a lot of the gun games, and then the keyboard you can use to basically do some of the button presses in the emulators and stuff inside. So the box itself, it's nothing special. It's just basically a metal box with some I/O on the one side and some big fans to keep it cool, and a power supply. So like that. So that's pretty much the box. I say in the hard disk image, you can download this hard disk image and you could flash one of these yourself. So you could get hold of one of these, you could get into the BIOS, put a card in and flash it yourself. The build on here is a Windows 10 build. It sort of makes sense because the Taito Type X system is essentially built on a Windows platform anyway, and a PC platform. So to use the PC Type X emulators in basically on the hardware they were supposed to run on, it does make sense basically. So yeah, it's a Windows build. Underneath it is a very cut down version of Windows. If you go looking, it does use a couple of different emulators as well. So you've got DCEMU, there's what other emulators are on there, there's you got MAME on there, and I'm sure there's another emulator, but it runs the majority of like Naomi games, Type X games, the various versions of Type X games, 3D and 2D. With this version of the board, because it's the i3 processor, as far as I've read up, there's different versions of the boards. When they release different games, they sometimes updated the boards. They put a better processor in them, they put a better graphics card in them, they use more RAM, depending on what game it was. So I don't know what game was originally in this one, but obviously that's been... Oh, actually, you might say, but there, Puzzle Dragons, wherever that is. So Puzzle and Dragons was the original board in here. Well, the original hard drive in here, by the look of it, wherever that is. It's got the serial number and everything, so I'm assuming that's what it was. So this is obviously a bit of a lower end version of the Type X board. So there is problems with some of the later stuff, the 3D racing games and some of the 3D flight simulators. Like it's got a couple of Sega Lindbergh games on here and stuff. Generally, they're a little bit hit and miss because of obviously the board's a little bit lower end. But all the Type X stuff all works. All the Dreamcast stuff work. You know, the Naomi stuff, all that works fine. All the MAME stuff all runs on you really good. And there's a lot of stuff that does work on you. But I think if you were probably gonna get one of these for yourself, you might want to look out for a slightly more powerful board, unless you're not too bothered about the racing games and stuff. As I say, you do have to use an Xbox pad for the racing games. You can't use it through pad controls. So the way I've got this hooked up through FastIO, so I've got it hooked up to all the controls of my Velux cab, and it all works fine. There are some games on here in the build that won't work on the controls. I'm in the sort of middle of trying to figure out how to adjust all the controls and stuff on here. I noticed if you press tab on some of the the F3 games and the MAME stuff, you can get the standard MAME menus up, so you can basically just configure your controls. So you could set to play 1, play 2, and you're good to go. But the racing games are all set up to an Xbox pad, so you can't use the cab for that. And there's some basically shooting games that are all set up to the mouse, but there's some of them that don't work. So like Aliens, for instance, it looks really good, but I can't get it to work. So I need to try and maybe just mess around with the background emulation part of this, because you can get into it. Basically what you do is you just press plug a keyboard in, press escape, it escapes out to a black screen. You then do the Control Alt and Delete to bring up Task Manager, and in Task Manager then you can go to run Explorer, and then we'll bring up the Explorer window, and then you can browse the files on you. And it's the hard drive is separated into 3 files. There's one for the system, one for saves, I think, and there's one for all your ROMs. So you can have a browse around, and you can actually run the emulators from there as well, and you can run the menus from there. So the other thing I did notice, that all the games load with a script. I can't remember the name of the scripting program on here, but they've all been specifically set up with a script to run each game. So when you get to the nice menus and you click on the game, it runs a script in the background then, which launches that game into that emulator. So essentially, guys, this is an emulation box. It's an original Type X arcade board turned into a Type X emulation box, which you can't fault. That's pretty nice. It's loaded with a very nice amount of games. I say, because this is not mine, I don't know how much was paid for this. They do go various prices. I've seen them going for 400, I've seen them go for 500, depending on spec. I did see one on eBay about 3 weeks ago with the 1 terabyte build on you, going for like 240 quid. And if I'd had the money, I probably would have snapped it up, so it would have been quite cool to have in the cab. But the one thing you can do, you can download this image that it uses, and you can put it on an external hard drive, and then your PC in the house, you can use it to boot your PC. So you could basically plug it in, boot to USB, and it'll boot up into its home operating system, separate to the one you normally use on your drive. And you could run it off a PC, but it will take a lot of configuring to get that working, and a lot of messing around, which I haven't quite figured out how to do it all yet. But anyway, guys, that's a bit of a, just a look over the Type X 3 arcade board. As you can see, it's a bit of a beast. It's basically just a metal box. It is quite loud. It's not stupidly loud when you run it, and it's supposed to be in the cab. So that's why the fans are running at full speed, because it's obviously keeping the heat down. It's not too loud, to be honest. Like, don't notice it after you play in the game and you turn the volume up a bit. But yeah, it's just basically a PC in a box with an emulator stuck on the top of it. So that's the overview of the Type X board. I probably will do a video showing you the menus and everything on it. I will do that actually. And if you want to go back and have a look at my live streams, I've been streaming it for the last couple of weeks and going through a lot of the games and playing them. And I've had quite a lot of fun with this, I've got to admit. Really good. So anyway guys, that's the Type X free arcade board, and look out for the overview of the software and everything on it. Hello guys, here, Tuner back again. Right then, as for the first video showing you overview of the Type X system, I'm going to show you an overview of the actual software of it all running now, and explain what stuff's actually on here, and what you can get into, what you can change, what you can't change, how all the buttons work and everything. So this is the artax image, so I believe they're all set up pretty much the same. As you can see, you've got the games list is all set up like a NASCAR 2 system in Japan, which is very nice. You've got various button controls, tells you on the right type of game is, type of genre, release date, tells you the controls as well, which is quite nice, which they are all set up for these controls. So I'll run through the games list, give you a rough overview of what it is. So firstly, it's not just Type X games on here, there's other games from other systems on here, because this is pretty much an emulator machine. With a nice front end, which sort of didn't make sense because the original Taito Type X games are essentially Windows games anyway, because it does run on a Windows system. So first we'll start off with it, like I say, goes into a nice little track mode. First we've got a Thomas Wave. We've got 27 games on a Thomas Wave. There's a few classics in here as well, like Dolphin Blue for instance, and Fist of the North Star, the Guilty Gear games, King of Fighters, that sort of thing, including Metal Slug 6 and the Samurai Showdown game, and they all run really nice, these do. So you basically, there's buttons you press to go back and forward, so I'm just going to go forward a page, and now we get 36 cave games. There's not 36 cave games on here. They're basically alternative versions of those games. So you've got Ibarra and Ibarra Black Label and things like that in here. So you've got the alternative versions, including some games that are not cave games, like Dodon Apache 2 for instance, which is made by IGS. But it's a rather nice game actually, I do like that a lot. So there's some nice games on there, as you can see running for the list. Second, we've got CPS 1. So pretty much, I think most of the CPS 1 games are on here. At least most I can think are on here. So that's quite nice to have all the Capcom CPS games. Go to the next page, we've got CPS 2, and I think pretty much most of the CPS 2 games are on here as well. I'm not sure exactly how many CPS 1 and 2 games there are. I'd have to look it up, but majority of the big hitters are all on here essentially. So which is rather nice. We've got CPS 3, or what's most commonly known, the Street Fighter 3rd Striker system. So that's pretty much all anyone ever plays on it. So, but CPS 3 is nice. You got all the games on here and all the different versions as well. Then we got the ES3 system, which I'm not entirely sure what that system is. Maybe a Namco system, possibly. I'd have to look it up. I'm not quite sure what it is. Anyway, this gives you things like Lost Island, Mario Kart, some of the pod stuff, Tekken 7 and all that. Unfortunately, due to the system requirements for this, they don't run very well on here basically. They're pretty much unplayable, unfortunately, but there's some nice games on it. So then we got the Taito X, the F3 system, which runs perfect on here, apart from the sound is low. And there's 35 games on here. There's some really nice stuff on here, to be honest. Some really nice shoot 'em ups and things like that. So then we've got some Laserdisc games. We've got 26 of them. I'm not really into Laserdisc stuff myself. I haven't actually tried them on here. But supposedly they all work fine. So you've got the Laserdisc games, so they're your bag. Then we got a load of Lindbergh games. So there's 13 altogether. Unfortunately, you still run into the same problem. These are 3D games, and on this system configuration for the X3 board, they don't run particularly very good. So that is you probably need a slightly better CPU, possibly. I'm pretty sure once you've hacked the BIOS of them, you can change the CPU out. So it probably would be useful to get like an i7 CPU and chuck in there, like an old one. Probably wouldn't cost you much these days, and all these games would probably run fine then. You've got the Naomi stuff, which does seem to run perfect, and there's some nice Naomi games. There's only 9 though, unfortunately. We've got 2 versions of Marvel v Capcom 2. But there's some nice games on it, including that game, which I love. So you got Naomi games. You got Neo Geo games. I think there's pretty much all the Neo Geo games on here. I think there's 1 and 2 on here. I haven't actually played. Some like homebrewish type games. Diggerman was one of them. No, I never played her. Looks a bit like Boulder Dash. So yeah, so you got all the Dreamcast games. But the Neo Geo games. Can't fault that. Got Dreamcast in the mind. Then you got the Ring Edge system. So you got the Transformers game. Some of these are playable, the 3D ones. I did play through the Transformers one. I haven't tried all the games on this system yet. But yeah, there's some nice beat 'em ups on here. There's some nice shoot 'em ups. Really love that game. Thinking go Fighting Climax Ignition. One of my favourite beat 'em ups. It's a really good fun game that nobody knows about. But 1 or 2 games I have tried on here don't work properly. They run a bit too slow. But there's 26 games on here. You can play Golden Gun though, which is quite nice. And then you got the Type X system, the original Type X system. So you got things like the Raiden games, King of Fighters Sky Stage, Homaru, some other stuff like Tetris Grandmaster and Spicy Adventure. So there's 17 games on there. I say these are essentially made for this machine, so they all work. Same with the Type X2 system. So you got a lot of nicer games. A lot of this stuff did actually come out on consoles, or you can get it on Steam. But not everything did, unfortunately. So there's some nice things on here as well. You got the Nesca version of Akai Katana as well. And that's an interesting beat 'em up that I didn't realise actually got an arcade release, but it did. There's some nice games in here. Unfortunately, like the Street Fighter games don't work particularly too well. But there's 66 games in here, and there's some interesting stuff in here as well, including a couple of interesting beat 'em ups and shoot 'em ups. That's a nice game. The Darius Burst stuff don't run, unfortunately. But Chaos Code does, which is very good, and Chaos Breaker does, which is also good. So you go then to the Type X free system, which is what this is. And then you've got some more 3D beat 'em ups. Unfortunately, I think a lot of these beat 'em ups were made for a higher end Type X system, and they run in slow motion, unfortunately. Like if I show you one of them to give you an idea. See, this has got 4 gig of RAM. I'll show you the system specs. It's got a dual core processor with 4 threads and 4 gig of RAM and an i3. It's an i3 processor, so it's not a super high end machine. And unfortunately, some of these games don't run well. It does have a replacement graphics card though, which I'm not sure what it is. I didn't want to open it because there's a seal on the side of it and it's not my unit, so I didn't want to open it up. Some of the games don't have credits. There's no credit button essentially, but if you hold down weak punch, as you would do like the Street Fighter layout, and then press start, it'll chuck credits up for you. So you can get this on PS4 as well. So you can go and play into this, but as you see, this I start up a quick match. It's a nice game, this is. EX Fighting Layer, as it says on the title screen of the one on the PS4. But unfortunately, it does run. It does look nice, but it runs very, very slow. So it's pretty much unplayable, unfortunately. So some of the 3D, more modern beat-em-ups run like this, so they're pretty much unplayable. So to get out of a game on this, you hold down all 3 punches and the weak kick and press start, and that goes back to the menu system. So the same with like the King of Fighters and Samurai and all that, they don't run very good. You need a slightly better system. I think if this was mine, I would look into getting a new CPU for it. See if I could get I probably wouldn't pay much for an i7, and I'm pretty sure you can just swap it out once it's been hacked. So you could put a new CPU in here and possibly 4 gig of RAM is probably enough for what it needs because it's a cut down version of Windows in the background. So that's the Type X free system. So if we go to beat 'em ups, then there's a little small collection of arcade beat 'em ups, a few classics like Ninja Baseball Batman and Oriental Legend, Night Slashers, Turtles, Vendetta, Double Dragon. So there's only a few there. Driving games is the same as well, hit or miss depending on what it is. Some of the 3D games work, some of them don't. So there's a few driving games, only 4, so there's not many there. Fighting games, these are generally just sort of main type games, apart from Tetsunobu vs Capcom. And that runs on a Wii emulator, which is quite interesting. And an interesting fact as well, the arcade board for that literally is a Wii with a cable coming out the side of it, and I think it's either a JAMA connection or a JVS connection on it. So it is actually just a Wii in a box. So there's some classics on here, like you can get them set up. And then you've got gun games. Some of these work, some don't. I need to try and figure out the controls radians. As you see on the side, you can see the mouse has come up. So it shows you which ones work, but I need to figure out how to get that working. Platform games then, there's 16 platform games. There's a few classics in here, Aliens, Black Tiger, Bubble Bobble, Contra, I wouldn't say that was a classic, it's not a very good game. Demon Front Door, which is class. And then you got Cuphead and Sunset Rider, Shinobi, that type of thing. A few nice little games there. There's a few little shoot 'em ups. There's other shoot 'em ups on your mind, but there's a few little shoot 'em ups in this section. Not a huge amount, but what is here, apart from Blazing Angels, is very good. So you've got like Boogie Wings and the Salamander games and Sexy Progress and stuff, which is nice. And then to finish it off, you've got the sports games. So sports games are not my bag. I know everyone loves NBA Jam. So if I start NBA Jam up, what you find is in the background these are all running off emulators. So I think this is MAME. So yeah, it is. So you can press tab and you can plug a keyboard into it. By the way, you can plug a keyboard and a mouse into this. And for the racing games and any of the flying games on here, it's all set up to an original Xbox pad. So you can basically plug an Xbox pad into here, have it coming out your cab or running through your telly or whatever, and then you could use an Xbox pad to play the racing games. So this does have the setup for your different machines, and if you look how it's set up, you've got your joypad movements here running because it's all running through Fast.io or JVS, and then it all seems to be set up a little bit like an iPac, so it's all set up to keyboard keys. So it's very similar to an iPac. So basically when you press a button it comes up as a keyboard key. Same in there as well. There was filters over this. There was like a CRT filter, which I didn't particularly like, and they say this unit's not mine, and the guy who's lent me this unit, he didn't want them on there, so I've removed them all. But you've got to go searching through the INI files in MAME for the filters, and then basically just delete the entries in it, which I ended up doing, taking them out. But yeah, so basically it's your standard MAME type setup, so you can basically just go through all this. Oops, I'll go back. So same with slide to the control. If I do video control, I can probably put them back on. What I found is if you go into here, it didn't keep the setting for the filters. So if I can do it screen up, I don't think I can turn it back on. Now I've turned it off. I think the option has disappeared because it was in there basically. There was an option there to change the screen. So you got your bezel artwork, your screen. You can change it to 4.3 if you wanted to. You can turn the bezels off, that type of stuff. Put the artwork back on. Some of the artwork don't look too bad. You can change the screen pixel size and cocktail cabinets and stuff. So that's your standard MAME settings. So to go out, you just press the four buttons back down again, and off you go. So I would say the majority of the 2D stuff runs really well on you, and the majority of like the Taito X, the Taito system stuff, all runs very nice on you. Shoot 'em ups do. It's just some of the 3D the 3D shooters, the gun games essentially, and some of the racing games, unfortunately, don't run particularly well. Same with some of the beat 'em ups, depending on what they are. But just remember, you can use an Xbox pad. This one is because it's got an upgraded graphics card. It doesn't have to be done through VGA. So this one does have DVI, VGA, and HDMI out. I'm using this HDMI out to the monitor in the cab. So you could just plug this in the telly if you wanted to. But the only problem there is you would need a fast I/O setup, or you would need a JVS converter. You can buy one. I think it's about 80 quid. That you can convert basically standard joysticks and stuff straight to JVS. You would probably need something like that really to take advantage of it. So they say that's all the setup with the games on you and stuff. So if I don't know, we'll pick a Neo Geo game for instance. We'll start that up. Actually, I'll show you 1 or 2 games running, and then I'll show you some of the back end then. So some of the Neo Geo stuff is all on free play, some of them isn't. And I can never forget how to get out of this once I've done it. So you start weak punch and start to put credits in, if needs be. So you can play aggressors of Dark Combat. So all the buttons are pre-set up for you, which is nice. That artax guy has obviously spent a lot of time on this image, going through it single game by single game. Probably took him quite a while to do it, I would say. And then configuring Windows and locking it down and stopping things running. I say this image is a 1 terabyte image. You can download it off the internet and basically flash it to a 1 terabyte drive. You could put this on an external drive, plug it in USB and boot to that from your PC. Just go into your boot menu and change it to boot straight to this USB, and then you could use it on a standard PC. Only problem is that you might run into problems with the controls. You may have to configure a lot of things. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to show you how to get into the back end. So once you've got a keyboard in, if you press exit, you can basically exit the attract mode. And this will you end up in the black screen. If you hold down Control Alt and Delete, you can get Task Manager up. You can use a mouse if you want, which is what I've got plugged in. So you don't want to mess with changing passwords or anything like that. You go into Task Manager, go into Run New Task, and just type Explorer. Hit that. And then the Explorer window will open up in the back. You won't get the Windows desktop. I'm not quite sure the command to get that running. I need to look that up. So basically you can get into the back end of this system. So basically I think this is a Windows 10 build in the background. Pre-set up to show you no settings. So as you can see, I wonder if it'll tell me in here what version of Windows is running. Windows Startup Application. But yeah, it's a Windows 10 build, I believe. There's all your different stuff that's running. If you go into Performance, you can see the actual specs of this machine. So you've got a 3.3 gigahertz dual-core processor in here, and it's basically got 4 logical processors on it, so it's essentially it's got hyper-threading for 4 processors essentially, but it's essentially 2 split in 2. This one's got 4 gig of RAM, and you can see the usage, which is very low because you're not really running through Windows. According to this one, right there, that's what graphics card is there. So it's a GT 640. It's the graphics card that's actually running into it. So it's a GeForce card. I'm sure that said MSI in it, so it must be an MSI version. You can upgrade these graphics cards. I think if you could get an upgraded graphics card for this thing and possibly an upgraded CPU, I think you'd have no problems running a lot of these games because that card runs it, but that's obviously a very old card. You can get a better graphics card and chuck it in, and these days it probably wouldn't cost you much money to do it either, probably about 30, 40 quid or whatever. Get a better GeForce card, get a something better and chuck it in. So there's the startup stuff. So if I try another task a minute, let's try this. System info. Let's try see if system info will run. Maybe not. Yeah, that just runs that open. Yeah, in here somewhere is the system info stuff, but I'm not sure where it is. Anyway, we'll forget that. I don't think that is going to run. Actually, I wonder if I can do it from a command prompt. Okay. I'm not sure if you can run system info from here. You probably can. You can pretty much run everything from the command prompt. Yeah. No, I know some DOS, but not a huge amount of it. Anyway, let's just go into the drives. They say this image is split up into 3 different drives. You've got your first Windows drive, you've got your main drive with all the games and everything is kept on, and you've got your save drive. So in here, you'll find just a standard Windows setup. You've got the DOM profiles for the pod games. You got your stuff that's installed. One thing I did notice, when you load a game on this and load it up in the menu, it's all been scripted in the background. So each game has got a scripted loader, and this uses a auto LT3, and this is the script program it's using. To change any of this, you'd probably have to script some of the stuff. I'm not sure how to do any of that because I'd have to look it up and figure it out. But yeah, it's using that script software. As you can see, there's few things being installed, but it's a very minimal version of Windows, essentially, cut down. Is there anything interesting here, either? So no, nothing interesting there. So basically, that's what's running on that drive. This is the save states are nothing particularly interesting, where it keeps your save states for each game. This is the interesting drive. So if you go into here and you go into games, you can see your entire games list. And if I click on one, say, I don't know, Thomas Wave or whatever, if I go into Thomas Wave, there's your games, each one of them listed, and you notice it's got the script. The script is all set up, and I don't think I can open this script from here. No, I can't. Each one of those scripts, if you can get into it, I think the script is basically telling you run this emulator, you run this setting, and off you go. And every one of these games in here has all been scripted, so that must have taken a lot of work, essentially. I think there's some games in here that are not actually showing up in the menu as well. Possibly. There you are, there's all the ring edge. I can see the batch files, look. So if you go in to edit these batch files, so when you run these games, it runs this batch file. So it says it's launching that scripting program, look. So it's looking for that file and launching it. And then it's launching the game, and then it's telling you where the game root is, and it's going to the launcher. So it's all been painstakingly set up, I would say. Basically, each one of these games to get them actually running. So a lot of work has gone into this image. So basically, all your ROMs and everything is in there. I wonder what it's got on PGM. Is it just the one Demon Front? Yeah, and they're all running through MAME. Look, so it's all been scripted to run through MAME. So if we go back again, so there's your drivers and everything for your JVS and the fast IO adapter in this machine. So that's all basically in there and sorted and up and running. And then there's the universal launch scripts. So that's telling you how to launch the model stuff. So all this has been scripted. I'd have to get into it to have a look at how that actually works. And then in here then is pretty much the emulators. So you've got your menu. So this is the menu program. So to go back into it, you just double click attract, and it'll go back to the attract menu. But in here, you've got the various versions of MAME, which this running, and you can change settings in here. This is how I got rid of the CRT filters. They're in the ini file, so you need to mess around with the ini files. I can't remember where it is in the ini files now because I edited it out. So obviously it's not showing up. Where was it? I might be able to see it. It took a little bit of playing around to figure it out where it was, and then basically just to turn it off, which is what I've done. Yeah, see, there's stuff you can boost processing and things like that. These other things you can change around shadow. Sorry guys, I had a cough. It's the shadow mask stuff. It's not that one, but there's other ones for shadow mask which you can change them. You can put them back on if you wanted to, but I've literally turned them off. And then you'll see the other emulators that this is running in the background. So you got DE Mule. It's a very good emulator that runs a Thomas Wave and Dreamcast and Naomi and a few things. So it's running them. It's running the Dolphin emulator, which I think is for Tetsunoko versus Capcom. It does have a version of Fightcade on you, but you may want to be careful using that because you never know how this has been pre-set up. So as soon as you connect it to the internet, it might start downloading stuff. Who knows? So probably best to stay away from that on you unless you're really sure that it's a safe build. I don't think there's any ROMs in there. Yeah, it's just linking to them ROMs, look. So you could play Fightcade on you if you wanted to. It's got the two different versions of MAME. It's got the Model 3 emulator, the Model 2 emulator. Technoparrot is where a lot of the big sort of 3D games and the modern stuff is all coming from. You can open Technoparrot from here and change settings, which I think is where you need to configure controls for some games and stuff. But it will throw up loads of errors when you first do it. Like I'll show you now. So if I open it up, it'll. Do you want to delete it? No, you don't want to delete any of this stuff. So you just click it. No. It's asking you to delete profiles. You don't want to be doing that because then you might be in trouble. Once you've done that, it'll boot up in Technoparrot. And then you can have a look at each game setup, like Alien Extermination, which I can't get working at the moment. So what's in control set up for that? So player one is definitely like... Alright, so if I change it to that, it'll probably work. So depending on what mouse are now, you may need to go back into that. We'll try this out now and see if this actually works. So you can see your select button, test button, start button. So there's no start button setup. So I'm going to do that one as my start button. If it'll pick it up. No, it won't. This is where it gets a bit tricky. So if I just do number one, player one. So I'll save that settings. It won't let me go down now. I had this before on you. It wouldn't let me go down to settings for some reason. Once you've clicked something, come on. I need to go down so I can save it. Come on. Why won't it let me go down? Probably I need to click on something. Again, so that's the mouse. Start could be that on the keyboard. Come on, let me go down. See, now I can't go down to save it, which is a problem. See, coin shoot tab. So that basically, the tab basically gives you coins. So I can't go down now. So let's have a look. It's weird that it won't let me. It was doing this before when I was messing around with Technoparrot. I can cancel it out. Oh, I can't even go across to cancel it out now. What if I press the Windows button? No, won't let me do it. Control Alt and Delete. Right, so now it'll let me do it. So if I save asset, and we'll try that out and see if it works. So you can do the same with the other emulators. You can open them up and cancel it. So if you've got a two-player panel on you and nothing's working, you'd have to go in and really set everything up. So that's pretty much all the stuff. That's the artwork and everything in the background and the little video files and everything. So you can see the emulators. This is actually running in the background. So we'll go out to that, and then we'll go back to... Actually, I should have stayed in there to launch it. Once you go into this, or you will end up seeing this in the background when you launch games. Right, okay, so I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to go Systems, and I'm going to go Menu, and I'm going to launch the Attract, which will take me back into this. What I found is once you go back into it, your joystick won't work, but if you start a game using the keyboard with Enter, you'll always see that in the background now, unfortunately, once you've gone in there. But once you reboot it, it won't be there, basically. So, and then you can cancel out then, and then it'll work again. So, let's have a look if the aliens thing I did works. Gotta figure out which one was Aliens now. Gun games on it. Right, so I also noticed Aliens doesn't fit on the screen properly. So I think that needs configuring slightly as well. Can I go in there now? Right. Okay, so it should be loading. Techno Parrot now. Yeah, it is, look. It takes a little while to run. These games do anyway. I know in Technopart with certain games, because they're meant to run on certain systems with certain resolution, as they're meant to be an arcade machine, that you need to run your arcade cab at the exact resolution that it should be, and then it'll work basically. So if I go... Ooh, it works. Okay. Can't go across though. Okay. Wonder if we can fire. Yeah, I can't move it across properly. Oh, yes I can. Yes, it's not using the fire button, so I need to configure that. The mouse is working anyway, so as you can see, this runs. But it's obviously needs a little bit more configuring. I need to work that out. So I'm going to go back. So as you can see, if you do want to change it to your setup, you are going to have to do a little bit of playing around. It would be possible, but as I say, this is primarily meant to go on a Type X board and to be plugged in a Vulix arcade machine or a modern arcade machine with LCD monitor. So that's pretty much how this entire system is meant to be. But anyway, guys, that's the overview of the Type X system. What I think of myself, yeah, I like it actually. I was a little bit initially put off by the fact it was an emulator, because I was expecting just the arcade setup, but to be honest, it makes sense, and this way it does a lot more than it would be if you just had a couple of Type X games on you. So it does pretty much everything, and it is pretty much a plug and play system, apart from there's a few things that need a little bit configuring. But all in all, mostly you buy one of these for your cab, just plug it in, connect it with Fast IO or JVS, and off you go, it's working, you know. So it is a plug and play system. I'm not sure how much they are to get, but if you could possibly find one with a slightly better CPU, because they did do different versions of the board, or one where you could easily change out the graphics card, which you should be able to do it on this one. I think if you did that, a lot of the other games would run on you, no problems at all. But yeah, it's a nice little PC setup actually, and it's perfect for chucking in a cab and having a lot of stuff to play. So yeah, I quite like it. It's good. So yeah, nice system. Yeah, pretty good. I like it. So hope you enjoyed that. And if you're thinking of getting one, it's just a nice overview of the one with the 1TB build by artax with all the stuff. So you know roughly what you're going to be getting basically. So all right, cheers for that, guys, and I shall catch you out. Bye now.